You got anything on you?
Stay with him. I'm at my house.
Okay, I don't know. I'm asking you. What's your name?
15, I'm going.
Gervonta.
Gervonta. What?
Gervonta.
Gervonta is your first name?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your last name?
They're saying he can get anywhere up to 7 years if convicted of all charges, right? When you break down the situation, when you're a celebrity or an athlete and you have money.
What started as a quiet federal sweep has turned into a full-blown investigation that threatens to displace Tank's legacy. Authorities have uncovered large sums of unregistered cash inside Tank's Florida mansion after reports of him paying for jewelry with cash that investigators believe may not be tied to any declared or traceable income. The findings have triggered suspicions of money laundering and forced federal agents to re-examine Davis's long pattern of legal and financial irregularities.
Gervonta Davis, world champion, man. Oh, man, not again, dog. You the big dog, man. Hey, you Baltimore's finest, man. Yeah, across the Delaware Bridge, right? Yeah, that's him. That's you. Yeah, man.
But this time, it's more than just Tank under the microscope. The shadow of Floyd Mayweather Jr., Davis's former mentor, promoter, and longtime influence, is still following him and even much deeper into this situation. The revelations come shortly after Mayweather himself was named in a recent $1 million real estate scam involving a fraudulent company accused of defrauding investors. The timing has led fans and analysts to question whether Davis may have been influenced or even groomed into similar activities under Mayweather's watch.
Hey, Devontae, what do you have to say about the charges against you?
Devontae, you was charged.
You got nothing to say, guys. Come with me. I'm your body.
Did you punch that woman in the face?
You got nothing to say.
Right now, 4:30, a boxing star bonding out of jail in Broward County and refusing to answer.
For years, Tank Davis has walked in Floyd's footsteps, both inside and outside the ring. The flash, the money, the cars, the controversies. But as federal agents comb through Tank's finances, some say the parallels are no longer just about style, they're about substance. Tank, like Floyd, has a record tainted by domestic violence, public altercations, and now, potentially, financial misconduct.
Gervonta "Tank" Davis had a history of assault charges and more. On September 19, 2017, an arrest warrant was issued for Davis, who was being accused of first-degree aggravated assault. The charge was later changed to a misdemeanor second-degree assault, which carries a maximum potential sentence of 10 years or a fine of $2,500 or both. At the court, Anthony Wheeler, a childhood friend, complained that Davis punched him on the side of the head with a gloved fist. He then stated that he was diagnosed with a concussion at the hospital. The incident took place at Upton Box.
The discovery of the undeclared cash reportedly came during follow-up proceedings after the 2023 burglary of Davis's Parkland mansion. During that incident, which occurred while Davis was serving jail time for a 2020 hit and run, millions worth of luxury goods were stolen, including exotic cars like a Lamborghini Urus and a Ferrari SF90. At the time, the sheer volume of wealth raised questions. But now, federal investigators are starting to view it through a different lens. Was all that money legitimate?
In March 2021, he was indicted on 14 counts for allegedly causing a serious car crash after running a red light after a November 2020 birthday party in downtown Baltimore. His Lamborghini struck another car and left it smoking, sending the occupants to the hospital, including a pregnant woman. He allegedly left the scene in a Camaro that pulled up minutes later. On February 16th, Davis accepted a plea deal that saw him plead guilty to leaving the scene of an accident involving bodily injury, failing to notify an owner of property damage, driving on a suspended license.
The cash now under investigation was allegedly not accounted for in Davis's tax filings or banking records. And according to sources familiar with the case, the money was not held in any secure financial institutions. It was stashed in his home. This mode of keeping large sums off the books is a classic red flag in financial crime investigations, and the involvement of multiple federal agencies suggests the matter is being taken seriously at the highest levels. The incident has also dredged up the messy split between Davis and Mayweather Promotions. For years, Davis hinted at tensions with Floyd, publicly expressing frustration over how his career was being handled. YouTuber show Biz the Adult recently chimed in, arguing that Davis's dissatisfaction stems not from money, but from a lack of legacy.
Now, beyond that case, he also still had a hit and run accident case that was still hanging over his head from a couple of years ago. And so he finally went before the judge for sentencing, and he ended up getting 90 days of home detention along with 3 years of probation. So As of right now, it's reported that he's spending those 90 days with his trainer, Calvin Ford, and looking forward to moving past this 90-day home detention.
Despite being hailed as the face of boxing, Davis has yet to face a defining lineup of elite fighters, a strategy many blame on Mayweather's influence. Gervonta didn't know that you can be the face of boxing without satisfying your legacy, Showbiz said in a recent video. He looked up and was like, "I'm still hungry." That hunger, for meaning, for recognition, for something more than pay-per-view numbers, may be at the root of Davis's increasingly erratic behavior. Recently, the WBA lightweight champion announced his retirement, claiming he wanted to make money and stay out the way.
That's why I don't want to box no more. I want to do therapy, right? But I feel as though if I do therapy, it will lose the fire that I have inside me. I want everything out of me where so I don't never think about fighting again. I don't think about even getting angry, you know what I mean? Because I have 2 girls, 2 daughters. I'm wanting to be much softer, you know what I mean?
In his words, "I want to be living without being seen." Some saw it as a fighter at peace. Others now view it as a man stepping away before more gets exposed. Ironically, Davis is still scheduled for the rematch against Lamont Roach on August 2025 in Brooklyn, a bout he's framing as one of his last. Whether that fight will go on as planned now depends in part on how this investigation unfolds. If charges are filed or his assets frozen, Davis's in-ring future could be halted far sooner than 2025. As for Floyd, his own legal entanglements continue to grow.
Incarcerated, it just, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yo, hey, Tank, that shit fly right here.
I ain't gonna lie, your beard is finally doing something.
It was a learning experience. You know what I mean? It showed me that that's not where I want to be. And I got kids, you know what I mean? I got kids I gotta take care of. Got family, friends, and everything I gotta take care of.
He was recently named in a lawsuit alleging his name and brand were used to mislead investors in a large-scale real estate scam where he claimed to own properties that were not even in his name. While Floyd has denied involvement and insisted he was not part of the scheme's operations, the allegations have further stained his public image. Now fans are putting 2 and 2 together. Davis idolized Floyd, he mimicked his behavior, he built a career off Mayweather's name, but he may have also inherited the darker parts of Floyd's playbook. From domestic violence accusations to hoarding cash in vaults, the similarities are becoming too stark to ignore. The core issue? Davis is 30 years old, at the peak of his physical prime, but mentally and emotionally he seems checked out. He's tired of the sport, bitter about his legacy, and possibly entangled in financial dealings that stretch beyond boxing. Federal agents are watching, so is the boxing world. If the current investigation leads to charges, it could mark a spectacular fall from grace for a man once seen as the heir to Mayweather's throne, but it would also be a cautionary tale about what happens when money and fame are prioritized over principle and growth. "Money isn't the bill," Showbiz said. "You won't be happy." As Davis's future hangs in the balance, one question remains. Is this the end of Tank's fight career, or the beginning of his biggest battle yet?
A lot of you guys are talking about what Gervonta Tank Davis said, talking about him pricing himself out, saying that he won 150 M's for his rematch with Ryan Garcia. Y'all want to know what I think about that whole video? It looks like Gervonta is on the outskirts. Listen, man, where everything is happening, dude, all these fights are being made over there. It just looks like Gervonta is on the outskirts looking for the perfect op. But at the same time, talking about how big of a brand he is, how much.
However, it seems that the talk surrounding Tank Davis to sound a lot more like alarms. While the boxing world was busy dissecting his shock draw against Lamont Roach, a fight many expected him to breeze through, there was a far more complex situation unraveling behind closed doors. And it all circles back to money. Not just the kind made in the ring, but the kind that rarely sees daylight. the kind that keeps attorneys on standby and federal agents alert. And now, the narrative has taken a darker turn. Tank's push for bizarre, high-profile fights like Jake Paul wasn't just about expanding his brand, it may have been a desperate scramble to convert shady cash into clean money before the hammer drops.
But for me, go get the money. It's right there. The bag is right there. Go get it. I will go get the money because these fights are going to always be there. These boxers are always going to be there to fight because none of them are making the type of money that you're making. Not saying they're not making the money, but they aren't making Canelo and Tank money.
According to several sources close to the boxing business, Davis has been under quiet federal scrutiny for months. While no formal charges have been filed, investigations reportedly revolve around money laundering, undisclosed income, and connections to criminal enterprises. These aren't new rumors in the fight game. The boxing world has always existed in close proximity to street politics and underground economies, especially for fighters who came up hard and fast from impoverished backgrounds. But with Davis, it's gone beyond murmurs. Insiders suggest that Davis's camp has been warned that a freeze on his assets, including his bank accounts, properties, and business interests, could be imminent depending on the outcome of ongoing probes.
You saying he ain't fighting for the money. You ain't saying Mayweather the promotion trying to make the most money off of Tank possible. You saying he fighting for the money.
If he said he went in there 0 times and requested the big fights, obviously he don't really care about the big fights. He just want to get the money, in which he's doing a good job at.
I mean, maybe he just let his team, come up with who they think should be next for him, and maybe that's why he hasn't gone in there. Because anytime we see him, hear him after a fight, well, got to sit down with Calvin.
This isn't merely speculation. Some observers have pointed to an unusual pattern of behavior from the Baltimore native in recent months. The sudden urgency to book fights outside of his weight class, the move to consider spectacle matchups over title-defining bouts, and a growing tendency to appear in environments far removed from elite boxing circles. And this is where Jake Paul was coming in. On paper, a 195-pound exhibition bout between a legitimate power-punching lightweight and a YouTube entertainer turned cruiserweight boxer makes little sense. Tank has spent his career dominating at 130 to 140 pounds. Jake Paul lives at 200. The weight difference alone should have killed the deal on arrival.
We know that Gervonta is going to fight Jake Paul in November, and then we'll see what happens if there's an AJ fight. Be interested to go from Gervonta Davis to Anthony Joshua, but I don't think the Chavez fight is terrible. I think it's a smart bit.
But it didn't. In fact, Davis's team was reportedly hungry to lock it in. Why? Because this wasn't about belts or legacy, it was about liquidity. A Jake Paul fight guarantees millions quickly in cash-heavy deals that rarely operate with the same level of regulatory scrutiny as traditional boxing promotions. It's a pay-per-view jackpot with less red tape and plenty of room for maneuvering funds behind the scenes. The Paul fight wasn't just an opportunity, it was an escape hatch. Davis, knowing that any traditional purses from sanctioned bouts would be tied up or monitored due to legal red flags, looked to leverage Paul's platform and the nature of an exhibition fight to funnel money cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. Let's run it. I'd be super, super down. I don't know if
Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
These types of bouts often involve shell corporations, cryptocurrency transfers, and international wire movements, tools that Davis's handlers may have been banking on to keep his finances fluid even if domestic assets were frozen. But the fight didn't happen. Why? Because the timing was off, and the Roach draw threw a wrench into the plan. Gervonta needed to get through Lamont Roach cleanly, keep his stock high, and then cash out with Paul. But the draw, controversial and damaging, complicated everything. Roach, by many accounts, should have won that fight. Some fans and analysts believe the only reason Davis avoided a loss was due to friendly judging and a questionable dismissal of a knockdown in the 9th round. The controversy didn't help the optics, especially as Davis was trying to present himself as a top-tier draw to secure the Paul payday.
One of the biggest names, obviously, Gervonta Tank Davis. 13 sellouts in a row, 3-division champion. You and him were very close to fighting. Will we see that in November?
Yeah, no, we're working on it behind the scenes to make that happen, and obviously that's a fight where the fans are going to win, and it's going to be the biggest event of the year.
What weight would you fight him at?
We're working on it, but It'd be an exhibition most likely.
Go ahead. If people want to know, can you bring glory back to Cleveland after that embarrassing?
Behind the scenes, things were reportedly falling apart. Negotiators from Jake Paul's team grew wary of Davis's unpredictability, both in and out of the ring. Paul, a savvy marketer and increasingly serious fighter, didn't want to be dragged into a legal circus or a situation where his opponent couldn't even access his own purse due to federal restrictions. That's when the plug got pulled. The deal, which Paul described as being on the 1-yard line, died quietly, with vague statements from both camps. But the real reason? Too much heat, too many eyes on the money, and not enough time to make it all disappear.
But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
How real or what was to it with you and Tank actually being the thing? Was that something that was talked about?
Yeah, no, it was highly talked about and in negotiations and almost ready to make happen, but he has to do his rematch with Lamont and get that W, and then we'll be able to run it back. But me and Gervonta were scheduled to fight for sure.
There's also talk of Davis rushing into promotional ventures, launching side businesses, and investing aggressively in real estate. All signs, according to forensic accountants, of someone trying to move money around fast. The goal? Diversify income streams and position assets in ways that are harder to seize. And in boxing, this type of behavior usually precedes one thing: a financial implosion or a legal storm, sometimes both. Critics argue that Tank has long surrounded himself with individuals whose priorities didn't include his long-term legacy. From hangers-on with criminal backgrounds to managers more interested in fast returns than steady growth, Davis's inner circle has looked more like a rotating cast of risk-takers than a strategic team. And now that lack of foresight might be catching up with him.
We're in discussions with a lot of names: Gervonta Davis, Anthony Joshua, Badu Jack, Ryan Garcia, KSI, Tommy Fury. So there's a lot of people on the hit list, but Badu Jack excites me a lot, and I definitely want to become world champion. So going after Zerto or Badu sounds like a good game plan to me.
If you had your pick of the litter and scale of 1, 2, and 3.
First is Gervonta. Second is Anthony Joshua.
Even those who have stood by him professionally are beginning to distance themselves subtly, waiting to see whether any indictments are handed down or whether Davis will be able to maneuver out of the quicksand. The desperation has begun to show in his media appearances too. Recently, Davis has been more erratic, shifting between moments of bravado and awkward silence when money is mentioned. In a now deleted Instagram live, Davis alluded to people trying to take everything I built, a line many believe was a direct reference to potential government seizures. His cryptic posts, aggressive jabs at critics, and newfound love for luxury items he parades online all paint a picture of a man trying to enjoy his riches while he still can.
Gervonta Davis just posted that he would beat the brakes off of you if you guys fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down. Let's run it. Like, I'd be super, super down. I don't know if
Gervonta needs Jake Paul. Let's be clear, right?
Is there a height limit in boxing?
Meanwhile, Jake Paul has moved on. His focus is now on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a fight that carries both legacy weight and commercial value. But even Paul can't seem to fully drop the Tank narrative. In interviews, he still references Davis's flaws, saying he never thought Tank was that good, and that Davis finally met someone in Roach who exposed his game. But there's a subtext in Paul's words that suggests something deeper, a recognition that he dodged a legal and reputational bullet by not going through with the bout.
Man, he got lucky at the draw. He did a good fight though. I thought he won it, but man, you gotta just create more action. That's a sparring session as far as I'm concerned. But god damn, that's not the Gervonta I know.
Others in the boxing world have begun to connect the dots. Promoters and managers are whispering that Davis's days as a top-earning attraction might be numbered. If even a portion of the rumored investigations materializes into charges, Davis could find himself sidelined or worse. And if the asset freezes do happen, he'll be fighting not just to defend his record, but to survive financially.
Didn't say you got your eye on Tank. What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fighting?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. He called cap on it. So if you want to call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it.
The saddest part of this entire story is the missed potential. Davis, for all his issues, remains one of the most naturally talented fighters of his generation. His power is real, his explosiveness undeniable. But instead of elevating the sport, he's now facing the possibility of being remembered as another cautionary tale. A brilliant fighter brought down not by defeat in the ring, but by the chaos that swirled around him outside of it. And in this sense, the attempted fight with Jake Paul becomes symbolic. A last-minute Hail Mary by a fighter looking to cash out fast before the curtain falls. It wasn't about proving himself. It wasn't about legacy. It was about survival. Davis wasn't looking to expand his brand. He was looking to sanitize it, to inject legitimacy into finances that had grown toxic. And Paul, knowingly or not, became part of that escape plan.
And then you compare those fights to Gervonta Tank Davis, and this leads me to believe that, Tank is still the cash cow. Tank is still Tank, because Tank and Lamont Roach, that fight was very, very entertaining, in my opinion. Even though it ended in a draw, you can say, people say Tank lost, say Tank won, but ultimately, in my opinion, even though Tank didn't stop Lamont, that fight was very, very entertaining. That fight was a back and forth fight. Both of those fighters came to fight. So now this is a win.
Now with the rematch against Roach on the horizon and the clock ticking, all eyes are on Davis. Not just from fans, but from investigators, accountants, and rivals smelling blood. If he wins, maybe he buys himself more time. If he loses or draws again, his leverage disappears entirely. And then the headlines won't be about exhibition fights or pay-per-view numbers. They'll be about indictments, court dates, and the unraveling of a once glorious career. For now, the tank keeps rolling, fueled by bravado and desperation. But with each passing day, it's becoming clearer. This isn't just about boxing anymore. It's about a man trying to outrun a past that finally caught up with him. What do you think of the situation? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more updates.